happy Wednesday. This is Wednesday. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. In just a few minutes or a few seconds, whenever she shows up, I'm going to be joined by my friend Joslin, and we're going to chat about a really super exciting project that she has just launched into the universe. And so she's going to tell us about it. But even beyond that, we're going to talk a little bit about what her journey was to get that product out into the world. And I see that she is watching. Let's see if I can bring her on. I can't like talk and hit the buttons at the same time. One of these days, maybe I'll get better at that, but not right now. It's not going to be today. And there she is, Jocelyn.
Look, technology, it worked.
It does work because, and it's super exciting because I'm here in Springfield, Missouri on a super cold kind of day, and you're like in Canada on the West Coast.
Delta, BC. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not too cold here. It's very overcast because it's Vancouver. But just went out for a lovely walk. It's not raining, so that's a win.
Oh, I'm jealous. Yeah, because we're going to have, of course, we use Fahrenheit here because, American exceptionalism. We don't go along with the rest of the world. Like we're going to have like single digit lows tonight and like below zero wind chills tomorrow morning, and I'm already like preemptively grumpy about it.
That's fair.
So
I get that.
yeah, but we also realized not too long ago, I have visited Victoria before, and we realized not too long ago, I don't know if you remember this, that we visited the same coffee shop, Murchie's, that is in Victoria. The best hot chocolate of my life I ever had it. I had it at Murchie's.
Yes, my whole family lives in Victoria. That's where I grew up, and I have a ton of Murchie's tea, loose tea in my cabinet because they are truly like some of the best tea in the world. So
Yeah, I
yes,
may have to see if you can like hook me up and send me some or something. I mean,
I'll see what I can do.
I know. But so that is not what we're talking about today, but I do enjoy a good cup of tea and or coffee and or hot chocolate. In fact, I'm going to have a virtual tea with my bestie. After we finish this, we're going to hop on and have tea together. So I'm really excited about
these
that.
things that we've normalized throughout the course of this ridiculous pandemic is like it is a nice silver lining is that I do the same thing now. Like I'm like, let's hang out because like
Yeah,
the only way to hang out anyway. So whether you're in New York or even I even do that with people in the city because like we're not supposed to see anybody right now. So
right. Yeah, I think when I was chatting with Phyllis the other day, just and especially, when this started, when it all came up in all the churches, because I was doing church work at the time, when all of this started, the pandemic showed up, like, for all of the churches, to go virtual, this would have been so much harder, even just 5 years ago. We would not have had the streaming capabilities. It would have, I mean, just especially stuff for free. We're just, if there is a silver lining to this, like, poop fest that is this continuing pandemic, that's it. We would have had so much more difficulty just staying connected and even just working, as a musician and a teacher. We would have been in a heap load of trouble 5 years ago.
Absolutely. I used to say that to my husband when we were sort of in the middle of all of this. It was like, thank God. I mean, if it was going to happen, I wish it didn't, but if it was going to happen, at least it happened at a time when we have these capabilities. Because I mean, I can remember being in college and needing to have a lesson and I couldn't get to my teacher, so like we would try to have a phone like a lesson on the phone, like an actual landline phone, because we didn't have cell phones yet. So like the technology, people have been trying to do these things, I guess, but it's like nowadays, like it's like a miracle. It is a miracle what we are able to do. I mean, I have students in Hong Kong, I have students in Montreal, I have students all over the world, and I know I'm not the only one.
Right.
And people are innovating and like doing stuff all the time. That is a silver lining. But I would like to see people again at some point in my life. Certain
people.
person. Some
Anyway,
people. Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly.
like people in general,
Not so much. Yeah, I'm
whatever.
that physical distancing, I'm actually okay with that. Like, don't get up in my bubble. I'm good with that.
I've always had a kind of a larger personal bubble than most people. So like, and being like a pretty extreme introvert, yeah, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine.
This stuff doesn't, like, that part of this has not bothered me at all. I mean,
Mm-mm.
I have an app that sort of, like we all have apps now that track, like, when we walk and things like that. And I
Uh-huh.
checked it once, and this was like in the beginning of the pandemic when we really weren't going anywhere. And it said, you last left your home location like 10 days ago. And I was like, doesn't feel like 10 days. I'm okay. Like, I'm good. I'll just stay home. That's cool. Like, I do enjoy being at home. So I'm
I do
very
too.
lucky that I can work from home. And I mean, I don't miss that commute. That's for sure.
I do not. I do not either. So you mentioned a little bit that you've got kind of students all over the world, but tell us a little bit about your studio, who your
Yeah.
clients are, and anything exciting you've got going on right now.
Absolutely. So I am working right now. I'm completely online, 100%.
Me too.
I pivoted right around spring break in 2020
Mhm.
when they were like, hey, this weird thing is happening. We're going to shut down for 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, everybody, we're going online. Follow me. And in like my spring break, which was supposed to be sort of chill, I basically learned how to use Zoom, how to be in my own home studio, which is now gone through many iterations to be optimized for
Mhm.
actually working from home, because I never used to spend any time in here. This was just where my piano lived and my library and, that kind
Uh-huh.
of stuff. And now this is where I work every day. And so I basically shifted online, managed to maintain most of my clients through that time. And then in the fall of 2020, I started really pivoting and shifting and made the call that, for this particular school year, I can't believe we're like 3 years now. I can't. I've been through like 2.5 years of like new starts and new tuition and new
Mhm.
models and all this stuff. And I made the call last summer that I was like, I don't think this is going to be shifting anytime soon. So I was
Right.
like, hey guys, we're staying online. And so
Mhm.
that's when I started investigating different online platforms, because
Mhm.
Zoom, God bless them, it's
Mhm.
just really, really hard for singing and
Mhm.
delay and lag and all of that kind of stuff. So I started looking into how to sort of level up my online experience for myself and for my clients, because online lessons are not better or worse than in-person lessons. They're just different.
Correct.
And they
Correct.
require different infrastructure and different platforms. And so I've been working with a platform called Musicology, which was developed
Mhm.
here in Toronto by
Oh,
Rebecca Featherstone. And I'm a huge, huge convert and fan of that, especially for, well, all of my students love the emojis, but like my kids love the emojis, and there's like whiteboard and interactivity and like all this great stuff. But most importantly, I can actually, depending on internet speed, play with a student who is singing in time, like online,
that's incredible.
which is like a miracle, right? Like, it's crazy.
Great. And
So
again, would not have been possible 5 years ago.
no, like it's really kind of crazy that we can
Mhm.
do that. And I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, because of course, like, the internet is a fallible thing, and internet
Right.
speeds are, nothing is perfect. But it's a like leaps and bounds beyond Zoom, which is fantastic. So I've been
Mhm.
working a lot. My main studio platform is one-to-one lessons.
Mhm.
I've also started doing group classes this year with my little ones, which is just a delight and a joy and a wonderful. I use Nikki Loney's full voice
Yes.
platform and materials, which I'm obsessed with, and everybody should go look. If you don't know Nikki, go look up full voice, because it's amazing.
Yeah, and there's
Uh,
tons of free stuff on the website too. So if you don't
yes.
want to like dive into getting the curriculum, there's tons of free stuff so that you could look at and see what it's like. And the stuff in the books that you buy is even better.
Yes, 100% yes to all of this. So I
And I'm going
basically,
to plug myself because I've been on the podcast several times. Have you
yes,
yet?
I have not yet. I'm
We're
hoping.
gonna have
I'm
to talk to her
hoping that
about that.
one day I will. I Nikki and I have been chatting about it, but she's so
Yeah.
popular now. she has like too many podcast guests, which is a fantastic problem to have. And I love you, Nikki. So please have me on your podcast. But yeah, so I'm a huge stan of full voice materials. And so I developed an entire group class around that. And that's been really fun. But the main thing that I have been working on throughout this entire time is a digital download for teachers. And it's called the Singer's Aural Skills Drill Book for Teachers, which is a huge mouthful. But when I crowdsourced, I was like, what would you expect this to be called? And I got a lot of feedback that was like, just tell me what it is in the title.
Yeah.
Like, don't get fancy and be like, you're training for rock stars, or like, you know, like be really specific about what it is. So needless to say, the URL is like very long, but it also, that is the name of the book. So it's essentially something that has been in development for me in my studio since 2016. Here in Canada, we have something called the Royal Conservatory of Music, which is a curriculum and also a bricks and mortar school in Toronto. And it's been around for like 100 years. And they have an exam platform that is run extensively throughout Canada, and I don't want to say extensively in the States, but it does run in the States. They do have exams.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it's at least not in my area. I think in more of the major cities, you're going to probably find teachers who are more using that. I have not used the graded curriculum like as a curriculum. I have used the books as like source material for students, and there is some fantastic stuff in the graded level books, and they were particularly helpful for me. I know this is a little bit beyond what we're talking about, but they, like for me as a young teacher, they were really helpful because I could kind of, you know, when you're first learning how to assign repertoire, you tend to go for things like I was like every other teacher, I tended to assign things that were too hard, you know. But the graded books were really helpful for me to be able to see, you know, to learn like on site, like without knowing a song, how difficult is this going to be? Can I assign this to a first year, second year, third, whatever student?
Exactly.
So I recommend the repertoire books, even if you're not, you know, especially if you're teaching classically, and they start from like
prep
0 to advanced, like, and I think they're wonderful additions to a teacher's library.
1,000,000%, because I was also that teacher who was like, I need an easy song, so why don't you try Caro Mio Ben? And then it was like a train wreck because Caro Mio Ben is a really hard art song.
It is.
I mean, not necessarily for us because we're professional singers.
Precisely.
But like for a beginning student, that is not beginning repertoire. And I believe, I'm sure there's some RCM examiners on here who will correct me, but I believe like Caro Mio Ben is like grade 8 or something in RCM. Like it is it's in the upper levels. So yes, I agree. Especially, I never used to teach kids. Again, shout out to Nikki Loney for like showing me that it was actually possible. And actually, Nikki is partly responsible for the reason that I'm in the Speakeasy Cooperative, which you and I are both members of.
Right. Yeah.
So like it's this crazy, like wonderful, lovely confluence of like serendipity. So I'm like super. I'm so happy to be here to be talking with you. But that's sort of how I started to use them. And then because I was working at a school, I was sort of attracting a lot of students and parents of students who were super into the RCM paradigm, because it's very useful also for a certain type of student who wants very specific goal setting, something to work towards, something that you can work on for the year that culminates in like a graded exam so that people see their levels and like feedback and all of that kind of stuff. And so it became something that I did in my studio. I mean, I was doing this when we lived in Montreal, and then I just kept on doing it when we moved back to Vancouver. And I started to realize I had like 8 or 9 students in a class, not a class, like in my studio, who were doing the summer session of exams. And I was like, we should do a class, like a drill class. Like, is that what you would call it? Like a drill class, like where we would just go over the musicianship examples, because that's the other component of RCM exams, is you have all the repertoire, and then you have the the ear training, so singbacks, clapbacks,
Yeah.
intervals, chords, chord ID, chord progressions, sight singing, all of that kind of stuff. So you have this whole other component. And, you know, I consider myself to be a decent musician. And of course I took theory,
Right.
which I only really understand better now because I teach it. It was not something I was super into when I was singing a lot, but it's, you know, using it and having to explain it to people, you start to understand it a little bit better.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so in the syllabus, which is also super, super helpful, even if you don't want to buy the books, because the syllabus lists all of the repertoire by grade. And there's a ton of repertoire that's not in the books because the books are just like a compilation of a sampling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I would go through and I'd be like, okay, so today we're going to work on clapbacks. And they give you 2 examples. So I would do the 2 examples and, you know, that would be fine. And then we'd do it again in a couple of weeks and that would be fine. And I'd use the same examples. And then after a while, my students who are smart cookies would be like, hey, give me this one. I already know this one. Or they would start doing it like really perfectly. And I'd be like, I mean, yes, you are improving, but are you improving that much? I don't know. And so I started on this hunt because I am not a person who wants to reinvent the wheel at all. I'm actually lazy. Like, I don't want to, if there's a resource, tell me how to buy it. I will buy your resource.
Time for that.
I'm not that kind of, and I'm like, who am I? I'm not like some ear training, like guru. Like, I don't know how to, like, I didn't want to do this, but I reached out, you know, to RCM and I said, hey, do you guys have books that are specific by level to the voice exam? Because if you have them, I will buy them.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we have them for like piano. And I said, okay, but the requirements are different.
Right.
And I mean, yes, I can extrapolate, but like you don't have something that's like specifically correlating to what you're asking for in the exam syllabus in a book that a teacher or a student can use to practice. And they were like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, well then I'm not going to spend hundreds of dollars on this piano resource because I'm not a piano teacher.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, well, I know what they're asking for. Like, I'll go to the music store and I'll like pick there's somebody must have done something. Like somebody must have written something. Nobody wrote anything. Like, this doesn't exist. I can't find it anywhere. I mean, I can find bits and pieces. I can cobble stuff together. You know, of course I could make stuff up, but I'm the kind of person who needs to see it. I need to see it written out. And that as a teacher as well, I think is super important because I don't have an eidetic memory. I don't have perfect pitch. I don't have perfect recall. So I could play something twice and my student could sing it back and I could be like, yeah, yes, maybe. And additionally, it's like things like, okay, I need to drill you on dominant 7th chords. Well, of course I know what a dominant 7th chord is, but do I know what 27 dominant 7th chords are? And am I going to sit there in a lesson and be like, C major, so that means that we start on G and then we build the chord as a triad and then I raise the 7th so that like it's a total like waste of bandwidth for me. Like teaching is already energy like rich. Like it requires a lot of pivoting in the moment. I know I'm preaching the entire choir here, but like that's what it requires. You know that, everyone who's watching that knows that. And I was like, I just don't want to think. I don't want to think about it. And I want to be sure, above all, I want to be sure that I am serving my students in the best, most efficient, consistent way. Because students are also super intimidated by these things. I don't know if this is just a singer thing, because again, I don't teach any other instruments, but you know, people are like, oh, ear training, oh, sight reading, oh, I'm terrible at it, oh, I don't know how to do it, oh, I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to do it. Like everybody gets super stressed out about it. And I'm like, no, it's a formula, just like everything else, you know, and you start easy and you build. Like, I'm not going to ask you to identify cadential 6/4 chord progressions when you're in grade 2. Like, you don't need to know that. So of course, because I'm super extra, I really only needed to build a couple of grades. Like I had a couple of people doing like grade 5, a couple of people doing grade 6, a couple of people doing grade 2. So I could have just gone through the syllabus, picked out these examples, built my own examples, and just called it a day. But I was like, I'm already doing this. I probably will have students who will do the other grades. So I'm just going to do it. So I spent that entire summer building this giant binder of examples that were all correlating to the ear training examples in each specific grade. So I would take the section like clapbacks for grade 1, and it'd be like, because they tell you, they're like, it's between this note, and it only goes up to a fifth, and it doesn't go below the tonic, and like all of that kind of stuff. So I essentially built out pages and pages and pages of examples for each iteration in each grade. And saying it like that, I realized that sounds really crazy. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot. And I was like literally like cutting and pasting stuff. Like I was physically writing things out and putting them in because I didn't know how to use Sibelius or Finale. So it's a lot. But what ended up happening is that I ended up teaching this class. And I had a class with everybody from like beginner, intermediate, advanced grades. And we would meet once a week for 6 weeks for 2 hours. And I would be like, okay, clap back. Okay, sing back. Okay, let's do some sight reading. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. And it was just like rolling. Everybody, I also used this resource to do a mock exam with them. So I had them run through all of their repertoire. And then I would do like random, because that's how the examiners do it. They just pick random. You do like 1 clap back, 1 sing back. And I would just pick random things. And then I would grade them. So I basically made up a little mock sheet because, again, super extra. And I like wrote down thoughts, like adjudicated, and then I like gave them a grade and like all of this stuff. And every single one of these students went on to do their exams and get like first class honors. And all of them came out of their exam and were like, oh my gosh, that was so much easier than your mock exam. And I was like,
oh, that's nice.
Excellent. I would much rather have you be like, Miss Joslin stuff is super hard, but that was way easier because that means that you're prepared, and I'm fine with that. And
that boosts confidence too.
Right? Yeah, because they were like, "Oh, that's not so bad. Oh, I can do that. Oh, great." So it turned into this thing that I built out of laziness and also feeling like I am not a super genius ear like person. Like I know there are people out there who can chord everything by ear and who just play everything or like look at a chord chart. And I'm like, that's like a wizard stuff to me. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how. And so I built this thing that I was like, yeah, sort of sheepishly, like, yeah, I have this thing that I do and whatever. And then what started happening is teachers started reaching out to me. And they're like, hey, I hear you have this thing for like exams. Like, what is that? What's that thing? Because I don't want to do this. I'm not interested in doing that with my students. And then people started sending me their students for RCM prep, which was funny because I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll teach a whole class on that because I nerd out to that stuff anyway, and I love the structure of it. So it was like a really good fit. And I was like, I mean, is there a market for this? Like, is this something that people need? Because of course we all walk around in the world like, I'm the only one who struggles with this, or I'm the only one who could possibly like need a resource like this. And I mean, stuff for me as well, like the chord progressions that you need to be able to identify by ear. Like I said, I'm not a pianist. And the tradition, as far as I can tell, the tradition with a skill like that is that you really are just supposed to hear it. So people will give you like 151 or like 141 or 1451 or whatever. And you're just supposed to be able to like pick a key and do that. And that to me is sorcery. I don't know how to do that. And nobody writes it down. There are literally I could not find a book, not a counterpoint book, not a harmony book, not anywhere that just had pages of examples of what a chord progression with different voice leading would look like. So I built it. And now I have it. So in like up to 3 sharps and flats, you can literally take a look at this and you can play through any or all of these iterations without having to worry about, is it right? Am I doing it correctly? Am I you just don't have to use any bandwidth for it. So
Mhm.
RCM essentially changes their all their syllabuses. They change them every 7 or 8 years.
Mhm.
And so, of course, I built this in 2016, and then the new syllabus came out in 2019. And of course, they changed stuff because that's what they do, and that's fine. So I rebuilt the whole thing,
Mhm.
essentially, and like re-put it together and expanded it and, did all of this stuff with it. And I just kind of left it because I was like, I don't really know. Like at that point, that was actually before I even joined SECO. And now, of
Mhm.
course, I know all of these, I've learned all of these amazing like business things that like there are templates that exist that you can build things in Canva and like what's
Mhm.
Canva, all of this stuff that I would never
Mhm.
have known how to do any of this. And so it all started to come together that people were like, I would buy this if you made this. Like I would pay you for this because I'm not going to do it. And I was like, okay, well, what else am I, not what else am I doing? Like, I'm building my business and working in my one-to-one stuff, but it's like, okay, maybe this is something that can like help people.
Mhm.
And so I essentially started in the spring of last year and basically taught myself how to use a workbook template. I spent a tremendous amount of type A anal retentive time making sure that borders and everything matched, and like
Mhm.
I still had to redo it like 27 times, and it was a lot. And then I actually contracted out because again, SECO, thank you SECO,
Mhm.
don't do stuff that you don't know how to do, pay people to do the stuff that you don't want to do. So I
Right.
hired somebody to actually input all of my examples into Finale. And
Mhm.
so then I had like an actual digital like PDF version of all of these examples and took all of that stuff, turned them into JPEGs or PNGs, put them into the template, et cetera, et cetera. So
Mhm.
it was like a big process to build all of that stuff out and figure out how to make it look nice, how to make it user friendly, how to explain how to use it. And then I realized that if I didn't have like a push, I was just going to keep refining until literally the end of time
Yeah,
because
that sounds familiar.
Mhm, mhm, yeah, that whole fail forward thing is really, really hard for me because I'm like, it has to be perfect. I cannot,
Mhm.
like, it has to be perfect. So I joined like a launch challenge and I basically like finished it and launched it at the end of November. And now it lives in the world. And yeah, now I have to figure out how to tell more people about it because
Right.
there was some back and forthing about like copyright issues and things like
Mhm.
that because again, extra. So I realized what I was trying to build about halfway through was an actual enhanced version of the syllabus.
Mhm.
So I was basically including all of the instructions to use it as exam prep for this very specific board. And then it would essentially be like, here are all the instructions. And then here are the 17 pages of examples that I wish lived in the actual official syllabus.
Mhm.
Everything was in one place because I love to collate and collect information. So that's like a big
Mhm.
thing for me. And then someone was like, mm, copyright is a thing. Like, you don't actually own the syllabus. And I was like, what? What is that? What does that mean?
Mhm.
Like, I don't know what that means. So it led down the path of like talking to a lawyer, figuring out like what my responsibility is. Because of course I'm not trying to do anything
Right.
nefarious. I'm just trying to
Right.
be helpful.
Mhm.
And so there were a couple of times where like I had to shift and I had to like
Mhm.
redirect and be like, this is really for exam prep. I mean, that's why I built it.
Mhm.
Um, but the reality is that you can use this in your studio for anything related to any kind of ear training drilling. There are
Mhm.
so many resources for sight singing. And I highly recommend Dr. Joan B. Heales's Sight Singing for Success because it is curated by level the way that my book
Yeah.
is. And I really like that. I like being able to start simple. That whole curse of knowledge
Mhm.
thing makes me think that things are easier than they actually are. And but the ear training portion of it, like it's really hard to find something like that that is specifically for singers.
Mhm.
everything seems to be curated to like pianists
Mm-hmm.
or strings players. And I wanted something that was really specific to this. And so I realized like you could use this for exam prep. You could use it for any exam board, Trinity, ABRSM, Canada Conservatory, like any examining board is going to have similar, might not be
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same, but like it will be very similar to this. And then you could use it for choral auditions. Like how many people who are auditioning for choirs need to be able to drill their intervals, need to be able to identify
Right.
things, sight singing, you know, all of that,
Mm-hmm.
melodic sing back, all of that kind of stuff. And if you want to use it just for general ear training, which I highly recommend for training well-trained
Mm-hmm.
and well-rounded singers, then it takes all the guesswork out of it. You don't have to worry about it. It's all curated by level. You know exactly what needs to happen. This is what a singer should, you know, should be working towards at this
Mm-hmm.
level so that we're not overexerting them or you know, making things too difficult. And so I had to sort of pivot and be like, okay, so as much as I would love for you to use this for your exam prep, you can also use it for like many different things. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to make it a little bit more general and, you know, and that's reflected in all of the versions that I went through and the copy editing and the beta testing and like getting people
Mm-hmm.
to look at it and like all of this kind of stuff. So it went through a pretty extensive process.
Right.
At the end of it, I felt, I mean, I had a copy editor, oh my gosh, God bless her, who literally like printed everything out and then took a ruler and she was like, okay, so on
Wow.
this page, your border is like 1 millimeter shorter.
Hmm.
And I was like, I want to die right now. How oh God. I was like, okay, I'm going to take this feedback. I'm just going to sit with it for a second. I'm going to deal with it next week because I cannot go in and look at this template anymore today. But
Mm-hmm.
all that to say is that like, it's such a cliche, but it really takes a village. Like
Mm-hmm.
you need to have, for people who are like thinking about doing something like this or wanting to put something like this out there, this is like, there are a bunch of, it takes some time and it's very
Mm-hmm.
beneficial to have another set of eyes
Oh,
on you.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, 'cause you um just, and I was not aware of the entirety of your timeline, you know, because I've been watching, you know, behind the scenes, you know, as you've been, you know, posting, because like you said, we're both members of the Speakeasy Cooperative. So if any voice teachers are out there and they're watching and they are needing business help and business support, because who learned this in conservatory? Nobody. They don't teach us this stuff. But if you are interested, Google the Speakeasy Cooperative, and come join us. It'll be fun.
yeah,
Um,
we have a lot of fun, like a
yes.
lot.
We also have a lot of butt kicking because
Yes.
you know we're trying to do some really fun things and put some fun things out into the world, but they are hard. I mean, this was a 5-year process for you, from you know conception to launch, and I think you know, like you mentioned, it does take a village, and we have this assumption, and I think it really does start in our conservatory days, or you know, our university days, when we spend so much time on our own in practice rooms trying to figure it out. We study on our own, we sing on our own, we do so many things. We're kind of given the impression that your career is your own responsibility. And yes, that is true, but we are also not really taught how to ask for help and who to go to for help, particularly for things that we don't know, like copywriting and putting things into a publishable form. I didn't learn that in my theory classes.
Oh my God. Oh,
And boy, have I learned how to use Canva pretty well. You know, thank
right.
goodness for that too, for free things that can, you know, they have little snap to lines that I don't have to measure things. It tells me.
Exactly. Yes.
But, you know, there are things that I just either can't do, don't want to do, or other people can do them better. And so I should, you know, figure out. It's like my car. I could learn how to change my oil. I don't want to. So I just take that to somebody else to do. There are plenty of things that in my house that I do on my own, and I Google and YouTube liberally to figure out like how to fix my dishwasher. You know, I can do that, but uh, it does. It takes more than one person to really pull stuff like this off in a quality way. And I think, you know, quality does matter to make it more easily accessible to people. Um, uh,
Yeah.
because, you know, if you can have the same product, put it out, but if it's not as clear cut, if it's not as easily readable, it's going to be harder for people to use.
Yes, exactly. And being super clear about what it is and
Mm-hmm.
how it functions in the studio, which is why my next step is going to be putting a workshop together, because
Mm-hmm.
I realized that, you know, people would really love some ideas and some guidance on how to most effectively use this resource. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure that there are lots of people, lots of teachers out there who are maybe like me, who are like, well, nobody needs me to tell them how to do that. Like, they know how to read a book, they can figure it out, like they know how to do that, but maybe they don't want to, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
they don't, and that's totally fine. Like, there is so much stuff that I don't know. Oh my lord,
Mm-hmm.
like so much. And I'm learning things like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a resource that a friend of mine, and I'm actually going to do a live with her about it next week, who wrote this beautiful storybook about Orff, like using Orff. It's
Okay.
like a story-based thing. And I supported her and I purchased it because I love to be able to do that. And I was reading through it and I'm like, I have no idea how you use this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this is a very obvious thing to use for like small children, but I'm so excited to talk to her about it because I'm like, I don't know how do you know, it's a story about a bear named Ta and his like baby named Titi. And I'm like, and they have these journeys, like they have this whole story that they go through. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like I would never have I don't think about things like that. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so wonderful to be able to, I mean, that's also really, it sounds really cheesy, but when I was in the throes of all the copyright stuff and I was trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to pivot and how to like get a straight answer out of a copyright lawyer, because again, God bless them, I don't want to do that with my life, but like,
Yeah.
it's what we do is so niche that
Mm-hmm.
even just explaining it to the lawyer would take me like 15 of the 20 minutes of the free consultation. Like they were like, well, what is this? Like, what are you trying to do? And what are you trying to use?
Mm-hmm.
That there was a moment where I was like, maybe I'm not going to be able to do this. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not going to be able to make this work, specifically because of like legal constraints, which is totally fair. I mean, copyright exists
Mm-hmm.
to protect everybody. Like I understand intellectual property and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I kept going because I was like, I know that there are people who can use this. I know that this will help people. It will help teachers and make their job easier, and it will help their students. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a product that can help people. And I know, you know, it's not curing world hunger, but will help people be better musicians. And as a singer who in my theory classes was basically in every remedial ear training class that there was, which
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about until I graduated, by the way. Because that was the hardest class I took. And then
Mm-hmm.
the teacher was like, oh, P.S., this is the remedial class. And I was like, what do you do in the regular class? This is so hard. But being treated or feeling like a stupid singer or like
Mm-hmm.
not a good musician. Like, yes, I had a voice. Yes, I had talent. Yes, I had emotion and I could sing stuff. But I didn't consider myself to be like a good musician or a talented musician, because, you know, singers aren't good at this stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
singers don't have these kinds of things. Maybe that's, I mean, I don't know if that's a universal experience, but I know a lot of singers have a lot of shame about
Mm-hmm.
not being naturally gifted at that. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
full disclosure, I went to Curtis, so I was surrounded by prodigies, like
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous 15-year-old piano who were
Mhm.
apparently doing like 5-part atonal dictation in their frickin' solfege classes. So I was surrounded by people who just did this stuff and they didn't think a thing about it. And that's, you know, that's
Mhm.
where the focus was. So if you struggled with it, I mean, I took a keyboard harmony class, which is where I was supposed to learn how to do chord progressions. And I didn't understand that you're supposed to be able to do this by ear and with the key
Mhm.
and looking at the keyboard. And so every week I would write out by hand on like paper what the assigned keyboard progressions were. And I somehow managed to get through that class by the skin of my teeth,
Mhm.
but it wasn't the purpose of it. The whole point was to do it by ear. But I was so embarrassed that I couldn't do it, and nobody seemed
Mhm.
to, it just wasn't a priority. And so
Mhm.
moving forward in my life, again, in a conservatory, nobody taught me pedagogy, never mind business
Right.
stuff. Oh,
Mhm.
hell no. You're going to get a manager and they're going to take care of your shiz. You don't need to worry about that. You're going to
Mhm.
be a famous performer, which is what a lot of us grow up with. And that's the narrative. So there were no pedagogy classes. I am
Mhm.
doing continuing education all the time now because I never had that.
Mhm.
Because our tradition in classical music as well for the longest time is like master teachers who just they learn
Yep.
from their teacher and then they pass it down. And you know and I know this is what you do, which is so incredibly beneficial and valuable,
Mhm.
and people need this. It's been one of the greatest discoveries of my life that people like you and Shannon Coates like exist,
Uh-huh.
and you can talk about these things because
Mhm.
3 years ago I was like, Craig, what? No, I like I don't think about that. I talk about balloons and
Mhm.
water and you know what I mean? Like there's this whole other paradigm. So building something very concrete like this, I really built it for myself
Mhm.
and then realized that there were swathes of people out there who, surprise, also work like that. So
Yeah, I think a lot of the projects that that we do start off, we start creating them for ourselves, and then we realize, hey, we are not unique in our need for that, and maybe it's not like billions and billions of people that need it.
right,
Like whoever invented toilet paper first, like that was a need, But for the people that do need it, it can be so beneficial and sometimes even life changing for just some of these little things that can make things
yeah,
just easier. I'm reminded because you mentioned that what you have done is maybe not for everyone, and that's fine. I do think singers have sometimes a very well-deserved reputation for not being well-rounded in theory. I can only really speak to my own experience and from what is around me, but and what I observed happening around the country. But like I think our industry is changing a bit so that we are putting more of a focus on less just singing pretty and more creating musicians. And I think that is a shift that has been slowly happening, but is happening more and more. And can you be a fantastic singer without reading a note on the page? Yes, you can.
mhm,
Um, I think that, and I'm going to steal this quote from Nicholas Perna that I heard in a podcast that he did ages ago. But he made the point with voice science. Like you can be a perfectly good teacher without understanding anything about vocal anatomy and voice science, but it makes you a better teacher faster. And to know theory, I think, in my opinion, feel free to disagree with me, anybody. And there are wonderful examples all over the place. But knowing and understanding and being able to work with theory adeptly makes you a better singer faster.
agreed.
It shortens the road from first getting a song to being able to get it mastered, in my opinion. So why not take some of those shortcuts and give some of those shortcuts to our students?
100%. I mean, even something as simple as, and again, a lot of these things I have learned in my teaching. I never learned them as a singer. I never
Right.
learned them in my degrees. I learned them
Mhm.
through having to teach them to somebody else. And I guess
Mhm.
lucky enough that I mean, I understood the concepts, but like the
Mhm.
practical application of things like how to effectively use a metronome.
Mhm.
Like, what is the point of a metronome? What is its job? And I had a discussion about this with a singer a while ago who was a relatively advanced singer. And I was like, okay, this rhythm is not correct. Have you just done the rhythm with the metronome? And she was like, no. And I, okay, well, that's a great place to start. Do you know how to do that? And she was like, no.
Mhm.
And she was in her 20s. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. All right, great. I mean, I didn't laugh because it's not funny and I'm not laughing at her, but it's just an indication that, you know, these are practical skills that
Mhm.
maybe are not something we wear on the outside all the time. You know, like no singer is going to go into an audition and be like, I have great ear training. But you carry those skills inside of you, exactly as you said.
Mhm.
That makes learning your music easier. If you're in a situation where you have to sight read something, you don't have like night sweats about it. Like,
Mhm.
you can adapt and overcome things faster. It's like the
Mhm.
foundation, it should be part of the foundational learning. And, you know, I mean, I think you and I are of a similar generation. When I was in school in the late 90s, early 2000s, I mean, it was a
Mhm.
very different culture. It was a very different focus. You know, they
Mhm.
wanted us to do these things, but it was sort of a like, well, this is what you do to get your degree. And these are part of it. Was always like, this is the broccoli and the gross medicine. And then you get to go and like sing and have fun and like be a singer. So if
Mhm.
you're to do that, you have to do this.
Mhm.
But I wish that this I tell my students, I'm like, I know you're not going to believe me because every adult says this and every student is like, sounds fake. But like, you will thank me when I teach you that this is the beat and ta 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 is the rhythm. Like, you will thank
Mhm.
me because that will help you not have to like pay somebody
Mhm.
$100 an hour to count your music for you, you know, like,
Mhm.
which again, no shame. If that's how you want to do it, that's
Mhm.
great. But like, there are ways to get better at those things
Mhm.
and they
Absolutely.
help you in your journey. So I think the idea of preserving bandwidth, especially in the last 2 or 3 years for me, I mean, like I said, teaching is a very intensive, like an energy intensive activity, but doing it through a screen is a whole other level of trying
It
to
is.
get that information
Mhm.
into those minds and
Yeah.
students. And so I'm like, anything that helps me not have to like make stuff up or do stuff
Mhm.
on the fly. You know, it's basically like having a lesson plan already done for you. And I'm not a teacher
Mhm.
who does lesson planning. I'm like, here's what we worked on last week. What do you want to work on this week? What are you feeling to?
Mhm.
Sometimes that changes because they wanted to do something, but they don't have bandwidth to do it. So we do something different.
Right.
But if we're going to work on ear training that day, I have everything I need to do that and know that I'm doing it accurately, which is
Mhm.
a huge time saver. So, you know, and it doesn't
Oh, my
live
lights went out.
it doesn't live in like 16 different books or like, you know, trying
Mhm.
for the riff for Sweet Caroline so that I can, you know, do a major sixth ascending song clue. Do you know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
just it lives in a place that's accessible to me. So
Mhm.
that was really like revelatory. And it's changed the way that I prep my singers for exams. And my singers are consistently doing extremely well in exams because,
Mhm.
you know, this now has become in my studio anyway. It's just like, oh yeah, we're doing this today. It's not like a big, there's no drama. It's not like a big thing, especially with the kids, because, you know, they don't want to do that. They want to play the
Yeah.
game.
Well, you're right. You know, because like it can be very much like the broccoli and Brussels sprouts of singing, which singing can be fun. Singing can also be terrifying, let's be honest. But, we do, I think, need to, and with anything that's enjoyable, that if you even have a hobby, like I remember, like when I was first learning how to knit, like the first few times I did it were not fun because I was trying to figure out how to
Yeah.
how do you do this, and now it's like I am still really much a baby knitter, but like it's way more fun now because I don't have to think so hard, to do it.
Right.
But we also, we have the benefit, being on the other side of that, having learned that, we can look back, we can tell them what the benefit is. This is going to help you. You will thank me later. But we can also be very creative in how we, present that. I don't think everything has to be fun. Because sometimes we do just have to develop grit and the stick-to-itiveness to be able to see something and follow through and learn it.
Yeah, exactly.
We do have to, be able to, as teachers, and sometimes even as learners ourselves, have to adapt, for different brains, for different understandings, because not everybody understands things the same way. But we do have the ability to try to present things in a fun and creative way, if we can, not, making them, go through pain just because we did it and we're better for it. That's, like, that's sadism. But
Right.
being able to, to yeah, if things are hard right now, guess what? There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I have done it. I have survived, and I can tell you the benefit. And I will help you learn the grit that you need to get from here to there.
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, with all kinds of different student types, some people come in and are purely avocational, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Actually have some avocational students who are really interested in this stuff. Like they enjoy it. They like to know like how things work. Other people just want to come in and they want to sing,
Mm-hmm.
That's fine too. And then I have a whole other section of my studio that are aspiring professional singers and, baby aspiring professional singers who do need
Mm-hmm.
to work on this skill building and who need to work on like how this is going. And figure out how to get through it and then apply it to their daily like practice in a way so that they know that we are working on something that's going to benefit them. I mean, I teach a college diction class
Mm-hmm.
and I do everything I do in that class is open book because I don't actually need them to memorize the rules for IPA.
Correct.
I don't care. Like, I don't care if you can regurgitate, that this is an open vowel when it's followed by two things, and this is a closed vowel when it's followed by one consonant, or like whatever. I don't care about that. And I know that y'all are going to be using IPAsource.com. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
old school like me, you're going to go back to your Nico Castell books, and you're going to go back to your Burton Coffin book, and you're going to look at all of these like written out stuff. My goal is that at the end of this class, you are going to be able to understand what every single symbol means in every single language that we're working on. That is my goal. So it is to teach you the skill of learning how to do it, not how to regurgitate it.
So yes, because I've said this point many times, that education is not always necessarily knowing things. Education is really knowing where to go to find the answer. And because I can't remember, I think it was Kate Fraser Neely that I stole this from. It's like you don't spend time memorizing things that you can look up. Because you need this is like a finite resource. It's diminishing every day.
Right? Files get turned over, right? Like we've got to clean them out every so often. I can't.
I know, and I need to know things that are going to like save me in the moment. If I'm going to die in 30 seconds, like I need to know how to fix that problem. But like if I need to figure out, what are all the formants, whatever, what are all those, confidence levels of the,
Yes,
I don't care. I'll look that up. Somebody smarter than me has put that in a chart. I can go find it.
exactly.
But
Like,
I know where to go to
I know
look.
where to go to look for it. Exactly. I'm like, I don't need to know if there is a liaison there, if it's a forbidden liaison or a compulsory liaison in French. I don't need to know because I can
Mm-hmm.
go and see in this written out transliteration what it is, and then we can talk about
Right.
it, So I agree. It's not necessary to keep all of that in your brain. And that extends to this particular resource. That's part of the reason that I did it, because I think also specifically for teachers, when you are in a situation where you are in a class or you are working with kids or
Mm-hmm.
even adults, honestly, I mean, I don't want to be in a position where I'm like, is that a dominant seventh chord? I can't. I think it is. Like, I'm the expert. And part of being the expert, as we just talked about, is knowing how to, like, where the answer is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessary for me to know every single iteration of a dominant seventh chord. That is not the
Right.
point. But I know where
Mm-hmm.
to find them so that
Mm-hmm.
I can then help you understand what it sounds like in like a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of different keys. So
Sure. And I think that's super valuable too as a teacher to be able to demonstrate that to our students that and kind of tear down the mystique of being the master at everything.
yeah,
um, like I do lesson plan for things. I do more consults with teachers than I do actual like voice teaching anymore, which is still super fun because that's basically what I do. It's like, come use my brain. I know where all these resources are. I can speak the language of voice science and this academic stuff that if you have not learned how to do that, who cares? But if
yeah,
you want to know, come ask me and we can go through it together. But like I have a pretty extensive intake form, for when teachers book time with me
right.
so that I can, get a head start looking up the information that they want to know because I don't know it all. I don't need to know it all. I know the basic principles, and when we get down into the minute details, that's what I use resources for. And that's totally fine, and I always, in the follow up from those sessions, I send links to those resources. So if teachers want to get that particular textbook in their library, they know exactly what I took it from. Or, if
Exactly.
there are relevant studies out there that I found, I will look them up and send them to you so that you can have them, if you want to read through them. And heck, if you want to know how to read research, I can help you with that too,
Well,
because
and
that is a skill.
that is a skill. And I mean, two things sort of spring to mind. I think this is something that that Shannon Coates put out, but she said, we need to, paraphrasing Shannon, so don't take me at my word, but like,
Yeah.
we have to normalize not knowing the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very open with my studio about saying, I don't actually know that. That's a great question,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to go find out and I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you about it because
Mm-hmm.
that's great for me too. Because now I know something that I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
about. And at the beginning of the pandemic, you wrote this amazing blog about aerosol transmission in singing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually something that I took the link to and I included in all of my correspondence at the beginning of the pandemic when nobody knew what was going on and everybody was freaking out and we didn't know when we were going to sing in person again together.
Mm-hmm.
Everything shut down. The number of people that said to me, thank you so much for providing this information because it makes so much sense. And I understand that things have evolved since then because,
Right.
science. But
Mm-hmm.
I also was like, I'm not going to go do a bunch of research about aerosols. Why would I? Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And quite truthfully, I'm not super interested in it. Like, I accept it and I understand it, but I'm not going to go research it. But this
Right.
is a perfect example of like, the information is out there. I don't need to know all the cite
Mm-hmm.
all the sources and do all of the academic research because you, wonderful person, have done this and I can just link to your blog, which I still do actually. So
Yeah, because I mean, mentioning that blog in particular, that went so. I mean, it just I can't even express to you like how insane that period of time was at the beginning of that.
yeah,
And just that blog came about for very much the same reason that your skills book has come about, because we were talking about all of that stuff amongst singers and academics, but nobody was talking to the church musicians.
Right.
And the biggest choirs on the planet are church congregations.
Yes.
And so that was like I was niching towards that audience, and it seemed to have hit a nerve. What it did, because I mean it blew up. I mean that was a whole thing.
But I mean, just for singing in general, for those of us who, like trying to explain to our students, like, this is why we cannot be in person right now. This is why. And you said it like so much better than I ever would even attempt to do it. So yeah, it's like we all start out as like ideal clients. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. But one more, well, I have two more questions.
Oh.
And we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but, just kind of stepping away from just the specific resource a bit, because again, I was watching a lot behind the scenes, and I remember, like reading, and I didn't contribute to these conversations because I didn't have the expertise to add anything, but I was watching them, when you were talking about all the copyright issues and stuff, and the, it seemed to particularly, kind of close to launch, like problems were kind of, getting back to back to back to back to back, but talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about just like, what did you have to learn, or what did you have to do or tell yourself just to keep going?
Honestly,
how much wine did you consume through the process?
In all honesty, Heather, it was really, part of it was sunk cost fallacy. Honestly.
Yeah, I hear that. I know it.
Like I've put so much time into this, and I'm so close. Like I'm so close that and also I am relentlessly stubborn. Like I am, like I have stories about, yeah, I am just, when I know that this is doable, even if it's like an obstacle or there's something to climb over, I will crawl to get where I need to go. I
said the same thing in coaching, a group coach yesterday, that like that's one of my superpowers, and also one of my, like I do not quit. Like I don't. Sometimes I don't know when I should quit. That's a problem. But like, yeah, I'm gonna get this sucker done come hell or high water. And so yeah, I resonate with that very much.
Yes. So I mean, I will literally at a certain point, like I'm starting to get better about stepping back and being like, okay, I'm at the point now where like we're in negative feedback, because like I've looked at this page like 7,300 times. I don't see it anymore. I can't look at it. I need to step away for the weekend, or I need to, and before I would just work for like 18 hours a day and not take so my balance is a little bit better now because I'm learning. But I was just like, no, I know how to do this. Like I can do this. This is like, even if that means that I have to figure out how to use like the commerce page on Squarespace. And then I put that as a line item, like build commerce page. And then I go to the commerce page and I have to do like 18 things. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, oh my God, like, I don't know. And that's when I take a break. Like I step away for a second, step away for the day. Like, okay, so then let's break it down further. Let's find like make it palatable, make it bite-sized. And then also I, as you saw from being behind the scenes, I had no qualms about reaching out to people. Like specifically, I reached out a lot to Nikki Loney because this is what she does. She has she does downloadables, but also, and I didn't do a print version of this for many reasons, but I reached out to her and I'm like, your website is a Squarespace website. What the heck? Like how yeah, it's really easy. Do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, but what about this? And she's like, nope, don't worry about that. X, Y, Z. And I'm like, okay, X, Y, Z. And then I would just like get back into it. And I also, when you're getting ready for launch, that's when all the stuff pops up. That's when all of the little things that you were like, yeah, I'll deal with that later. I'll figure out how to make a zip file. I don't know how to do that. Or, you know, and then realizing that I had downloaded everything, I made everything into a PDF, I built my zip files, and then I needed to change one piece of copy like a giant jerk. It was just something that like slipped through my thing, and I was like, and I'd actually already launched at that point. I caught it like the day after. And so I then had to like rush through and like change the copy in the Canva, re-download everything, and then delete all of the downloads on Squarespace, and then re-upload the download. Like it was this whole thing. And in the meantime, like the store is live. People are actually like downloading stuff, and it's not the right file. So I did have a moment of like, like total panic, because I also recognize that, you know, people are giving me money for this. Like this is I take that very seriously, and I wish it to be a seamless and easy process. I don't want there to be problems. And luckily, you know, it was only like 2 or 3 people who were like, hey, my file's not downloading. And I was like, yeah, no worries. Here, send it again. No worries. Yeah. There we go. So it really is, I think, just stubbornness and not knowing when to stop. And having, again, like just really having support and knowing that people have gone through it. Again, this is why, like, I cannot say enough about Speakeasy. Like, the wealth of information there, the amazing support from Michelle Marquardt DeVoe and Sarah Campbell and, you know, Kristen Coffee Rondeau, like these are who are sort of our main fearless leaders in community management and coaching and things. And then people who have done this, you know, who are very generous. And, you know, when I message Nikki and she's like, just hop on Zoom with me. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Like, thank you so much. Because you know, I try to pay it forward as well. You know, when people have things that have experience in, I'm like, heck yes, let's hop on Zoom and let's chat about it, you know, because, you know, you want to help people. You want to help people succeed and like do the thing. And some you know, people really helped me. So yeah, I think it's really just not knowing when to quit, honestly.
Yeah. And that paying it forward part is so important too, because, you know, we're especially in a group like Seco, you know, where we have the opportunity to learn from people who are further down the road, you know, or slog right alongside people who are, you know, at the same place, like, you know, and I'm going to be learning from you too, because, you know, I've got a video course that I'm going to be launching on March 1st for adolescent voices. And heck, if I know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing.
So exciting.
You know? And so I'm saying that out loud so that I will actually get it done.
We can log together, Heather, because I am now going to be building like a little course on this as well. And apparently this is like things I never knew. There are whole like companies and coaches that will literally help you build a course and teach you how to launch it.
Right.
But you need to, oh yeah.
But like I coached with Sarah Campbell, you know, and she basically gave me bullet points on how to get ready to market that sucker because, you know, like marketing, who taught us that how? No, nobody taught us how to do that. And so marketing is like still this big mystery to me. It's like, I know what I want to do. I don't know how to do it. So needing, you know, and talking with Sarah in particular, just like, please just give me bullet points, give me a time frame, help me know, you know, because like, again, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. She's done it before. She can do this. And so she can tell me what to do and I can adapt it to what I need. But I don't have to waste my brain space to figure it out.
Exactly.
You know, I can ask for help and she's helping me. So you're going to be seeing a lot more stuff from me about this course coming out. Hopefully. And it's like, I'm going to start marketing it. And then I don't even have the whole thing recorded yet, but I'm going to be working on it, you know, because it's like I'm building the plane as I'm taking off.
And apparently how you're supposed to do it, because if you wait for it to be done, you will never do it. So you just, and you get the first part going, and then as you're doing it, you're building the second part. And apparently that's how it works, which makes me very uncomfortable, but I'm trying to work with it.
Me too. But hopefully, if anybody's out there is watching all of this, they can learn from you, and then maybe later learn from me.
Yes,
It's like
let's
you
pass
just
it around.
you put the thing out into the world and see what happens, and then I'll have the opportunity after I launch it to refine a little bit, and probably we'll do a second launch because I'm going to do a closed cart the first time, so it'll only be open from March 1st to April 1st. So don't be an April Fool. You'll have to, get it from me. But and then probably launch it again in the fall, and that will give me the opportunity to refine, to get feedback and stuff. And when the RCM redoes their syllabus in 4 or 5 years, you will have the opportunity to update your product as well. And because you've already done it, and because I will have done the course, I will have a foundation. I won't be doing it from scratch, from the ground up and I will have learned a lot along the way. So it may not be easier. I think anytime you
No.
put stuff out into the world, there's some difficulty with that. I think that's inherent, and I think that's fine. But I probably won't have quite as many breathing into a bag kind of panic attacks the second time.
Here's hope. Here's hope. Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I it's a trip, man. It's stuff that we don't. I mean, if you had told me that this is what I would be doing 5 years ago, I would have laughed until I
Yep.
grew up. So
Same, yeah, because I had a totally different career path,
totally.
7 years ago, and then now I love what I'm doing, and I want to do it more and more and more. I'm really glad my dreams at that time haven't exactly come true. I think I'm in a better place actually. So that's nice. But I'm still able to use everything that came along with that time as I was building toward that dream, and then when the dream changed, I'm still using those things.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of stuff that is cross purpose.
Yes, exactly. So tell us how we can follow you, where we can get your stuff, all of that.
Amazing. So I am JRD Voice Studio everywhere. So Instagram, Facebook, and my website is jrdvoicestudio.com. If you just go to the main page up in the top, it says shop for teachers. And then that's where you can find all of the information. There's a landing page where you can go and read all about the book, see who it's for, how you can use it. There's examples there. And then you can also just go directly to the digital download page, which is the purchase page. And then in there, there's also, I've included all of the table of contents for each level. You can purchase by individual level. If you are only working with like level 4 singers, just purchase level 4. But I've also bundled things into beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So you can do 1 to 4, 5 to 8, and 9 and 10. Or you can buy all of them if you are working with a large, vast, like different levels of singers. You can have all of them, which is of course the most economical way to do it. And then you get all of the downloads. It is a downloadable, it is a PDF. So it is not, I mean, you can certainly print it, but I am not into holding on to physical copies of it. So please feel free to print it out if that's what you like, or it works beautifully on a tablet. It has been designed to be a scrollable tablet version. You can even use it on your phone. Or heck, I mean, if you want to use it on your laptop and you're teaching online and you want to screen share, you can even do that. Now, I will say this is a resource that is designed specifically for teachers. So it's not something that you would need to print out so that your student has a copy of it, like with sight reading. That sort of defeats the purpose because it's specifically for ear training. So you have the copy, and then you can, use those examples. And I have in the works some workshops that I'm trying to gauge interest in that, to see if teachers would like to hop on with me and watch me demonstrate how to use the resource, how I use it with different levels of students. And then, if you already have your copy, you can bring your copy. But if you're convinced afterwards, then you can go and buy the copy. And I'm also way down the line thinking about doing an audio companion to this, so that this could be something that your students could utilize as their own ear training, and I'll have like audio files where I will use those examples that are in the book, and then the students can use them to drill themselves a little bit when they're practicing during the week. So there's lots of stuff that works with this. This is really the start of it. And please tell a friend. And when you support small businesses as well, like, please know that everybody who purchases that, every time I get a little notification in my email, it's like, just makes my heart burst with joy. And it's really, you're really supporting like actual me and my family. You're supporting like a small business, a micro business, and you're enabling me to create more courses and more resources to help you, with your teaching, and help you with your students, and help make things easier, because that's what I want to do. So come follow out, and JRD Voice Studio on all platforms. So
awesome. All right. Is there anything else that I didn't ask that you want to say before we finish up?
No, except that I'm so thrilled, Heather, that you are as verbose as I am, because God knows I can talk a dog off a meat wagon, as my mom would say. So I love that this conversation has been fantastic. I've so enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for letting me come on and share all of this. Like, this is really exciting, and I just love being able to talk to other teachers about it. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking with several teachers this month, and a few next month. And my main reason is so that people who follow me get to know the great things that other people are doing, but also so if there are other teachers that are, kind of in the slog, like you and I have been with putting things out into the world, they can, learn that, hey, it's possible. We did it. We're doing it. We're going to get it done, and get a little maybe encouragement out of that too.
Absolutely. And I will be participating in Jamie Slutsky's Expand Online Summit that's happening in the spring. I believe both Michelle and Sarah are also participating in that. And so I'm going to get in and talk with her a little bit more in depth about the process, the actual nitty-gritty details about how this worked and how I built it. So keep an eye out for that. And if that's something that as a teacher you're interested in, that summit is super fun, and lots of like awesome speakers who are going to talk about great stuff to do with your business, and lots of niche things. So that's
I participate. I followed along with that summit. I didn't watch all of the sessions that were in the fall. I think summer or fall or something. Maybe it was even last spring. I don't remember. Time is a thing.
Spring. Yeah.
But it was a really well done summit, and if I recall, it was free for if it was live, and you could, and the pass was like super affordable if you wanted to get all of the things, and the ability to watch things later. It was super affordable. So that was a good summit. So highly recommended, just from a participant standpoint.
Yes, I did the same thing, and Jamie has had me on her podcast a couple of times, which I'm really grateful for. So I'm excited to just keep sharing the word. And if anybody's watching this and you have questions, oh my gosh, please send me a message, because I would love to help or talk about this with you. Like, I'm totally available for that kind of thing, and making it easier to utilize. So
absolutely. And you're welcome. If you're watching, you can, particularly if you're watching the replay, you can put comments or questions into the comments on whatever platform you're watching, because I'll post this, of course, on my Instagram page and my Facebook and my YouTube. So if you have questions, you can put them in the comments, and if they're for me, I'll answer. If they're for Joslin, I will pass those along.
Fantastic. I want to post.
So
I'll post it on my channels as well. So if you're catching this on the replay, then please don't hesitate. I'm available.
Yes, reach out.
Yes.
All right. Well then, thank you, Joslin. It was really fun to chat with you. I gotta go get ready for my tea time with my bestie. So.
I have a meeting to get to as well, because now I'm just meeting everybody online. So this was such a joy. Thank you so much, Heather.
Absolutely. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. One of these days, I'm going to make it back up to Vancouver, and we're going to have to go find some merchies for ourselves.
Please visit me. Come visit me. I love it. I'm a great person with tourists. I know all the places to take you. So
awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you later. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Bye.